Hey, I'm Jenna Hall, and this Thursday I'm going to teach Alayah how to make sugar cookies, decorate them, and decorate them with royal icing. We're going to make the cookies, we're going to bake them, we're going to make frosting, and then we're going to frost them. The objectives that I want her to be able to reach by the end of the lesson, and they mainly have to do with Bloom's taxonomy and helping her gain mastery of decorating cookies, or decorating cookies with royal icing, I guess. That she'll be able to name the steps of making frosting, be able to predict what will happen if we don't let the frosting dry out. She's going to be able to demonstrate the process of frosting a cookie. She'll explain why the steps to frosting a cookie need to be done in a certain order. She'll be able to choose a method of frosting that works best and defend it. And she's going to design and execute her own decorated cookie. So to start, Alayah will come in, and hopefully her individual physical state will be that she is excited to learn because she has watched the advertisement. She may also have state anxiety because of the new environment, but I'm hoping that she'll also have facilitating anxiety when it comes to behavior, because when kids are often in a new environment, they have the desire, they're anxious, but they have the desire to let the person know, what's the word I'm looking for? Failure to retrieve right here. They have a desire to please the person that they are having a new experience with, and so it will be facilitating anxiety because she's in this new situation, and so she'll want to have good behavior. Hopefully I can keep her from debilitating anxiety by having a positive physical climate, or physical arrangement, not climate, well, and climate. With physical arrangement, I'll have all the ingredients and utensils out so that we're not searching randomly throughout the lesson. The kitchen will be clean, and I'm going to keep her away from the oven just so she feels safer. And when it comes to physical climate, I'm going to make sure I have a friendly attitude so that she doesn't feel afraid. Once Alayah realizes that her psychological and safety needs are met, she and I can become more friendly. And then as she decorates a cookie, she will gain self-esteem and will realize that she can achieve her full potential. And that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because I've taught this skill to several other people her age, I'm going to start by giving her a norm reference test, and it'll help me figure out her schema and how advanced or behind she is compared to her peers. I'm going to ask her if she's ever baked before, and that will give me her self-concept. I'll ask if she thinks that she's going to do, how she thinks that she's going to do with baking, and that's self-efficacy. And I'll also ask her what she thinks she's good at when it comes to baking, and that's self-esteem. Finally, I will ask her if she's nervous about anything when it comes to the lesson and why she's nervous. She probably, when it comes to nervousness, it's usually occurs because of a negative experience that has happened at one point in her life, and she's applying it to this new situation, and that's overgeneralizing it. I'm going to use expository instruction to explain to Alayah that we're going to be making sugar cookies and decorating them with royal icing. And royal icing is a type of frosting that she probably isn't familiar with, and so I'm just going to go a little more into depth with that and why royal icing is used and its methods and yada yada yada. I'm going to instruct her at the beginning to listen and watch carefully throughout the lesson so that she can go home and teach other members of her family. I want her to be able to master this skill, and I feel like one of the ways that she can do that is through teaching others, and it's creating a social experience. So at the end of the lesson, I'm going to send her home with cookies so that she can, the cookies and recipes so that she can teach one of her older siblings how to do it. And by her listening to my instruction, and she knows that she has to go home and teach it, this will be intrinsic motivation to listen and watch carefully so that she can go home and show her family. She will be extrinsically motivated because she gets to eat the cookies when they're done. Using my blue thinking hat, I will explain the schedule of the lesson, how first we're going to bake the cookies, then we're going to make frosting, and then we're going to frost the cookies. And then I'm going to see what she understands when it comes to cookies. So I'm going to ask her, what do all cookies have? And she will most likely give a correlational feature of a cookie, and her answer will be an under generalization. And then I'm going to explain to her that one of the defining characteristics of all cookies is that they are sweet, and that the cookie we're going to make is a sugar cookie, and it's one of your basic sweet cookies. Assuming that Alayah has had some baking experience, she will use her existing schema of making cookies and add it to making more difficult cookies and decorating them in a more difficult way, and that's assimilation. In the process of making the cookies and frosting, I will most likely have a failure to retrieve a baking concept from my brain and probably have an interference of some sort because I confuse concepts a lot. And then Alayah may or may not have an interference based off the information I tell her, because there are a lot of concepts that are very similar to each other. But most likely, Alayah will have a failure to store much of the information that I give her the first time she hears or sees it. This is why I'm going to repeat the information and have her say it back to me so that she can gain an understanding of it, and the information will transfer to her long-term memory. And that's a mnemonic device I like to use to help kids repetition, to help them gain mastery of the concept. Making the cookies will increase Alayah's logical mathematical intelligence by using fractions in the recipe and thinking logically, specifically about how the dough looks. If it's too dry, it's going to need some milk. If it's too goopy, it's going to need a little bit of flour to dry it up. She's going to be able to use her white thinking hat to know exactly what the measurement of the ingredients we need are. I'm going to provide a recipe that has the picture of the ingredients and the word, and that way she'll know it all. And Alayah, I'm going to see if Alayah understands the relationship between the measurements on paper and the amount of ingredients we need. And if she understands this, I know that she's in the concrete operational stage. If she struggles to stick with the recipe, she may be leaning towards pre-operational stage. Alayah will increase her linguistic intelligence by reading the recipe and then re-explaining to me what she needs to do and what I need to do to help her. I'm going to use direct instruction for most of the lesson because this is a very interactive lesson. I want her to be able to interact with every aspect of it because I strongly believe hands-on experience is the way to go. I'm going to use direct instruction to teach and guide her to make the cookie dough. I'm going to start by showing her how to measure the ingredients and then have her measure out the rest of the ingredients for the recipe and pour them in and do everything that we need to do to make the cookies. As the process of making the cookie dough continues, I'm going to use transparent teaching to help Alayah understand why we only mix a dough for a little bit, or why we need to let the dough rest before it bakes. I really want her to feel comfortable to ask the whys, but if she doesn't, then I'm going to give her some of the whys so that she has a full understanding of what's going on. So as we make the dough, Alayah's desire to eat the dough before it bakes will influence her to try to sneak some cookie dough. And then also by having Alayah physically make, roll out, cut the dough, her bodily kinesthetic intelligence will increase. When we're done rolling and cutting out the dough, there's going to be a little bit of dough left over that's not big enough to cut. So I'm going to have her put on her green hat to brainstorm ideas of how we could use that extra dough or what to do with it. And then she'll use her blue hat to ultimately decide what to do with the leftover dough. So I'm going to have her come up with the different ideas, and then she's going to have to use her yellow hat to see what idea has the most benefits. If we should bake it, if she wants to eat the dough to satisfy her needs at the moment. If one of her ideas is to eat the dough, it's probably her red hat saying, I love to eat cookie dough. It tastes so good. I want food. I'm hungry. And so that's influencing her decision ultimately. She'll be using parallel thinking to solve the issue of the leftover dough, because all hats, I guess, are working towards the same goal. So when we bake the cookies, I'm going to have Alayah set a timer on my phone, and she's going to learn that when the timer goes off, we're going to check to see if the cookies are done, and that's correlational research. To keep Alayah from forming a common misconception when it comes to baking, I'm going to tell her that even though the timer goes off, it doesn't always mean the cookies are ready. It just means we got to check to see if they're ready. As the cookies are baking, I'm going to ask her why she thinks that the cookie dough changes when we put it in the oven, and she's going to probably respond with her personal theory. I'm going to ask her then when the cookies are done that if she wants to get them out of the oven. Her black hat will probably say that it's not safe, it's not a good idea, and that she's probably going to get burned. She probably is then going to ask me for help, and I'm going to say, why do you need help? And she's going to say that she doesn't want to get burned, and this shows that she's in the pre-conventional stage. When we're done making the frosting, Alayah will experiment with the consistency of the royal icing by adding water or powdered sugar, either to thin it out or to thicken it up, and that's experimental research. Right before we start decorating the cookie, I'm going to show her a prototype of the design that we are trying to accomplish. To increase her intrapersonal intelligence, I'm going to have her create a goal of what she wants her cookie to look like, using parameters I give her. So it has to be using the method, but she's going to ultimately decide the colors to use, how it is going to be swirled, etc., blah, blah, blah. At the end of the lesson, I'm going to ask her if she achieved her goal. I'm going to use direct instruction again to teach Alayah to decorate cookies. So first, Alayah is going to have to develop, or she will develop cognitively, when I show her the technique for decorating the cookies. And then she's going to have to accommodate that new method into her schema, because she's most likely never seen it before, because it's very different. As Alayah observes me decorating one cookie, she may ask me questions about what I'm doing so that she understands the process, and that's descriptive research. She's going to absorb what I am doing through her sensory register, and her working memory will move certain parts of my instruction, like how to swirl the colors or how to dip the cookie, into her long-term memory. The parts of my instruction, such as the colors I am using, will move to Alayah's short-term memory, because she doesn't need that. I'm then gonna have Alayah perform each step to decorating the cookie along with me, so that she feels confident enough to decorate it independently. When she decorates a cookie, she will then decorate a cookie by herself. To help the concept stick in her long-term memory and perhaps gain mastery in the skill, I'm going to have Alayah decorate several cookies independently. Alayah will decorate her own cookie as I decorate my own and guide her through each step. My hope is that Alayah will start to mimic what I'm doing without having to correct her several times. At the beginning, I know that I'm going to have to make sure that she's holding the piping bag the right way, that she's dipping the cookies right, she's squeezing a certain amount of food coloring. But after a while, my behavior is going to be contagious and she's going to catch it and start to mimic what I'm doing. So when she makes her first cookie, she'll most likely visualize my cookie and try to make something similar to it. And this will increase her spatial visual intelligence because she's going to have to design and execute her own decorated cookie. To decorate the cookies, Alayah will choose 2 colors to make the swirl on top. And then the color she chooses will most likely not be a conscious decision, but will end up making her enjoy her cookie more, and that's more intuition. Because it's her intuition to choose a color that she likes. She may not automatically think, oh, I like pink, I'm going to choose pink. She's just going to think, oh, pink and purple, of course. Because her brain is so used to thinking of those as like happy colors. And then when Alayah decorates the cookies, they're either going to turn out good, which is a positive instance, or they're going to be messed up, which is your negative instance. Piping is one of the more difficult psychomotor skills that we do when it comes to cookie decorating. So to help her be more successful, I'm going to give her a practice paper, I guess, with tracings of a circle so that she can practice piping dots on the paper until she feels confident enough to do it on a cookie. And that's what I'm going to use as scaffolding. When she starts to pipe, I'm going to instruct her by telling her to move her hand in a straight line, and that would be control language. And I may also let her know that if she holds her piping bag a certain way, it will be easier to pipe, and that's information language. Even though I can tell her how to hold the piping bag, Alayah won't really get a feel for it until she holds her bag. Her muscles have to get used to holding a piping bag and then store it into memory. And this is Bruner's model of representation, and this is the inactive stage. I will show her how to pipe, and while she watches and tries to have a mental picture of what piping is in her mind, which is Bruner's modes of representation iconic. While I'm making the cookies, I will have trait anxiety because I am a perfectionist when it comes to baking, and I'm going to try to make every cookie perfect, but I'm going to try not to do that because I want Alayah to think that her cookies, I don't want her to think that her cookies are bad if they're not perfect. So I'm going to make sure that if I have imperfect cookies, that it's okay, that it's just part of the design. And hopefully she will see me being positive about my messed up cookies, and so she's going to be more positive about that. And she'll be positive even when a cookie doesn't turn out the way she wants. And that's social learning theory. When Alayah is piping, and the piping is stimulus in this case, she may respond with frustration and will start to cue me to help her, either by looking at me or making noises or shaking or moving her body in a weird way. And this can turn into learned helplessness, and I've seen it several times with kids. When they feel like they're not good at doing something, she'll probably ask me, I can't do it. Can you do it? I don't know how. When in reality, she's just afraid of failure. So I'm going to try to decrease the disequilibrium and increase equilibrium by operantly conditioning her. I'm going to do this by telling Alayah that she is doing a good job and that it's okay if the cookie isn't perfect. I have to make sure that extinction doesn't occur by continuing to reinforce the targeted behavior. Her behavior while decorating will change based on positive and negative reinforcement that happens. For example, me telling Alayah that she's piping correctly is going to be positive reinforcement, and me taking away her practice paper is negative reinforcement because it is telling her that she's good enough to practice on her cookies. She should feel confident enough that she's going to do well. and that will continue to reinforce the target behavior. She's going to then continue to pipe when she feels like she's doing it correctly because I am giving her reinforcement. After the first few times, she's probably going to look to me for approval, and hopefully my response will increase her self-esteem and will help her feel confident in achieving her goal. This shows that she is in the industry and inferiority stage of Erikson's psychosocial stage, in addition to Kohlberg's conventional stage. When she decorates a cookie correctly, independently, I'm going to have her play around with the frosting and kind of step out of what I taught her and see if she can come up with her own design, and that's going to help her be more creative. And then when she comes up with her design, I'm going to have her teach it to me as a way of cooperative learning, and so that we can learn together and that she can feel like she has gained knowledge and she knows something that I do not. So after the first few times of correctly decorating the cookie, I'm going to only provide intermittent, I cannot say that word, reinforcement, so that Alayah doesn't rely on me for motivation, because when she relies on me, then she's not going to have a desire to do the cookies by herself. I want her to be intrinsically motivated. As we're decorating, I'm going to try to have an open conversation with her and just to get to know her. And I'm going to ask her, to get to know her, I want to ask her what she thinks that she can do that other people are not really good at or other people can't do. And her answer is most likely going to be a personal fable. And I'm going to ask her, so what do people do when you do that? Insert personal fable here. And she's most likely going to say, oh, they love it, blah, blah, blah. And that's going to be more imaginary audience, because people probably don't really care. It's just what she perceives people to think. I'll also ask her if she can use the skills, if she knows any place else she can use the skills that I taught her anywhere else. And then by asking that, she's going to be able to relate different concepts that don't seem like they could relate, when in reality, holding a piping bag could help you hold a pencil, yada, 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 things like that. And that is Bruner's model of representation, the symbolic stage. When all the cookies are done, we're going to taste them. Alayah will most likely be hungry by the end of the lesson because her body is classically conditioned to respond with hunger when you smell or see food. Alayah will have to then self-regulate so that she doesn't eat too many cookies. And then, because there are going to be a lot of cookies left, I'm going to ask her what she wants to do with them. According to Gilligan's theory of moral development, Alayah will most likely want to share with others because her brain is wired for care-based morality. Alayah's answer also tells us that she's in Gilligan's conventional stage of ethics of care. By sacrificing her own desires to keep the cookies for herself and then giving them away, she feels like she's helping others, and she is. At the end of the lesson, we will see effective domain when /if Alayah's attitude towards baking changes. Hopefully, she'll be more confident, and she'll have confidence in being able to teach someone else what she's learned. We'll also see that the proximity of our relationship has changed by the end of the lesson. At the beginning, Alayah saw me as kind of a random human who she just was like thrown in her house. And by the end, hopefully, we'll be friendly and have a little bit of a connection. Through the course of the lesson, I will form an attribution theory that Alayah's behavior is caused by her personality traits. And so when I can see that when I learn what her personality is and how that influences her behavior, I can change my behavior and my lesson to fit her personality better. So that will help her have less anxiety also. I will also see at the end of the lesson if she meets all the objectives that I wanted her to. And I'm going to do that by having her repeat different information I have given her throughout the lesson, as well as looking at her cookies and seeing how she did. This lesson will be taught with a more constructivism view because Alayah is learning through actively experiencing the concept I teach her. Alayah will develop cognitively by socially interacting with me throughout the lesson and then later interacting with her siblings when she teaches them or one of them to decorate a cookie. To prevent decay, I will send her home with unfrosted cookies and the recipe to make the frosting and cookies so that she can practice and teach one of her other siblings. During the lesson, I will start out as the more knowledgeable other, and then when Alayah goes to teaching a sibling, she's going to be more knowledgeable. And then when she goes home to teach a sibling, she'll be able to decorate the cookie by herself. She may need help making the frosting, but she will not be able to take the cookies out of the oven by herself. She's going to need a sibling to do that for her. The next part of this I'm going to explain is the brain aspects of the 100 concepts and how that will be included in the lesson. So specifically when teaching Alayah to pipe, her neocortex will allow her to see, hear, and move. The thalamus will relay the information I give Alayah into her cerebellum and cerebrum from her sensory system by passing it through the brain stem to control her thoughts and actions. If she finds piping difficult, her limbic system, specifically her amygdala, will tell her that she's frustrated, and when the thalamus will relay it to the frontal lobe, where it will try to find a way to stop being frustrated, whether she gives up or looks to me for help. Her motor cortex will plan and execute the movements needed to stop piping. As I instruct Alayah, her temporal lobe will allow her to block out noises so that she can focus on what I'm saying, while her occipital lobe, processes what she sees me do. Using the simplified memory system, Alayah's hippocampus will assist in processing long-term memories where they take place, and her hippocampus will assist in processing long-term memories and where they take place, such as how to frost the cookie and get the materials to do so. Before she eats the cookie, Alayah's hypothalamus will tell her that she's hungry. As she eats the cookies, Alayah's parental lobe will tell her that the cookie is cold enough to eat, that it's smooth, and that it tastes sweet. The neurons that make up Alayah's nervous system will transmit messages to different parts of the brain. So when Alayah is struggling to pipe, the dendrites pick up the impulses from receptors and pass it to the cell body. It travels along the axon and is passed by neurotransmitters across the glial cells to other neurons through synapses. The speed the impulses are carried depends on how much myelin surrounds the axons. The more myelin, the faster the impulse is carried. The impulses are carried from one neuron to the other, and it continues until it reaches the brain. And then Alayah's brain will recognize that she's frustrated. Because of her brain's plasticity, she's able to learn new skills such as piping. And the more she practices piping, the more the melanation process occurs in a neuron. And as the myelin sheaths build on the axons, the signals can be passed from the neuron more quickly, and it makes it easier for Alayah to pipe because her brain automatically is like, oh, I know what to do. This is not new. It's very simple information. And that's basically what my lesson is. I will talk to you tomorrow, and I'm excited to teach Alayah.